Assia Wevill is a figure in Sylvia Plath's studies and Ted Hughes' studies. So Sylvia Plath and Ted Hughes are two of the most famous writers of the 20th century, and Assia plays a part in both their biographical stories and also is featured in their work. So she is a character, for instance, in their poems, but she is a figure in their life stories, and she did make an impact on their lives. So Assia, for the majority of the 50 years since she passed, has been mostly marginalized in their stories. And there are many reasons for that. And so what's important about her is to recognize, I think, that she is a writer in her own right. So she produced acclaimed translations of Yehuda Amakai's poems. She did produce some original poetry, but that isn't necessarily her claim to fame. And also, we've been able to, with the collected writings of Assia Wevill, in letters and in journal entries, chronicle an important time in both the life of Sylvia Plath and Ted Hughes, but also the writing is really riveting and fascinating in terms of her own life. So Assia herself is a fascinating figure. And her life, and I argue this in Reclaiming Assia Wevill, which was my second book, her life is a kind of gendered case study. And so we can see the shortcomings, but also the potentialities, the possibilities, and we can see how far we've come, but how far we still have to go. And so her life itself, I think, is instructive, and it's useful, not only in illuminating the lives and the work of other people who are more famous than she, but her life is important in its own right. I feel so fortunate in that I get to work on exciting, important material. With the collected writings of Assia Wevill, it was such a fortunate experience in that I was finishing Reclaiming Assia Wevill, so that is a scholarly book, the first scholarly study of Assia. And so it takes into account Sylvia Plath and Ted Hughes as well. So I was finishing that. I was in the archive at Emory, and new materials had been deposited. And among those new materials were Assia's journals, her diaries, and additional letters. And it was just such a treasure trove. So I returned to the hotel room that evening, and I contacted my friend Peter K. Steinberg, who edited the Plath letters, and asked him if he would be interested in working together to produce a scholarly volume of Assia's collected writings, because her work, her writing, has been inaccessible. But then, too, what we didn't realize is how scattered the papers are. So they really are in archives and private hands around the world. And in fact, even in the United States, her papers, span the country. So they're at Stanford University and at Yale University. The biggest archive of Assia's work is at Emory University. So they really are, quite spread out. And so, so Peter readily signed on, and I feel so lucky that, first of all, I got to work on the material. So we had the blessings, the support of the estate of Assia Wevill and the estate of Yehuda Amakai. And so we were able to not only publish, so LSU Press is our publisher, so we were not only able to print the letters and the journals, but also original poems, the translations of poems, and other miscellaneous texts. So everything that we were able to locate, we were able to, for the most part, include. And so I say for the most part because, as is the case with Plath studies and Hughes studies, there are always new materials that surface. And should those become available, well, then we'll be able to likely put out another edition, which would be great.